My angels, here we go. All right, full disclosure, I just recorded an entirely other video and I'm having to re-record because I just massively overshared. Typical. All right. Listen, this is going to be kind of a raw video. I know everything's different. I'm in the middle of changing my office around again. I just felt that my atmosphere, I don't know, something has been going on in me over the last week, but few days for sure. I've been knowing it. I've been sharing it. It's an ascension. It's definitely forward progression because we go from strength to strength and glory to glory by the grace of God. Okay. No matter what it looks like in the middle, just remember that. That's a word for you. Somebody needs to hear that. It doesn't matter what it looks like right now. You're in the middle. If you cannot see that, if you don't have that breakthrough, that peace, that place, of just feeling, I can see you're in the middle. And I'm saying that to myself as well. All right. I'm leaning forward because I don't have my microphone. Anyways, I have a meeting after this as well in Oxford, which is exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing my old college chaplain. I love him to bits. I overshared in my other video by telling you guys I was like telling my whole journey. Okay, my journey in the music industry, my journey in church experience, my journey through my prophet experience, where I got identified as a prophet in the church, and just sharing with you guys that in each of those seasons of my life, right? I'm in my 40s now, so it's not like these are long stretches and seasons of learning, right? So in each of those seasons, I was put at the top of the mountain. I was shown, you can have this title, you could have this thing, you can go, build your life around this. And every time I just put it down. I didn't want a title. I didn't need a title. I don't like cliches. I don't want to live someone else's life. I'm not trying to build something that's already been built, that's boring to me. I like the idea of building something new and it being really authentically the expression of God through me. So I'm just not tempted by boxes. I said that so fast compared to what I just did in my other video. My dog's here, by the way. My doggy. Hey, doggy. This dog is an earth angel, truly earth angel. She's amazing. All right, so authentically, what's been going on? So the thing is, you guys hear me say I'm not enemy focused. I'm not wanting to be like that. I don't want all of that. Okay, why? Because I've been there. I used to run with the Celtic prophets. I've run with the spiritual warfare people. I know the words, I know the language, I know the drill, I know all of that stuff. And it gets very heavy, okay? I have been trained in deliverance ministry. I can do deliverance ministry. I studied demonology as well at Oxford, but to be honest, I just don't want to deal with it all. And that sounds weird to say because my degree is in so much of that. But this is where the video is going to get a little awkward and hard for me, because what I need to explain is that I don't want to be enemy focused. And I heard this great teaching one time. It's so beautiful. It was like, what you behold, you become, right? So I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to behold you, God. I'm just going to behold you. I'm just going to behold the light of heaven. I just want to be picked up, lifted up, fly over. I just want to fly over, okay? But how many of you guys know that that's just part of the story? So, right. So basically, what I'm telling you is I can't get away from it. I mean, even right now, we're going to be going into stuff about the occult, and I don't want to add to the fear in the world. However, I'm in my own hiding process with that, and coming out of hiding with that, because I can't get away from it. All right. Last year, last year I was on a walk, and I had a really huge moment where I was in the forest or out in the woods, and God showed me a vision of an angel that was being assigned to me in this new season. And I knew that this angel was a war angel, a battle angel. It was half horse and half human looking, kind of. And in the actual encounter that I was having, God was putting a mantle on me, and this mantle was a war mantle. Okay, and I knew it. And I started to walk around, and something completely shifted in me. That's all I want to say about it. Okay. So as quickly as that happened, I tried to forget it. Okay, why did I try to forget it? Because I don't want any more heaviness in my life. I've been through a lot. If you guys have been through a lot and you've been weighed down by a lot, it's like, and God has given me a season of rest from it. But it's like some things have just got to the point recently where it's almost like he's going, you might not want to deal with the demonic realm, but guess what? They know who you are. And they're not going to leave you alone, because everything you're doing is provoking darkness in the earth. So I'm going to need you to strap up. I'm going to need you to wake up, sober up, see again. I need you to see. Okay. So over the last weekend, I was like, I know what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with people speaking. How many of you guys know when people speak about you, they are speaking curses over you? If they're speaking about you in a negative or a gossiping way, okay? Words have power. We have life and death in the tongue. So, and I'm not unfamiliar with people speaking about me. So I know energetically what that feels like, to feel like you're it's just like, it makes you just kind of go like that, wilt. Okay. That's how it feels. You get fatigued. You can get lethargic. I also know what witchcraft feels like. Witchcraft feels like headaches. It feels like disillusionment. And what is that? When people are doing witchcraft against you, it doesn't have to mean like traditional witchcraft. Witchcraft is control and manipulation of outcomes. So when people are speaking in a way about you that is determining or wanting to determine an outcome in your life, or to say a thing about you or something, they are determining your motives. They are playing God verbally with your life. That is witchcraft. And that doesn't happen in the church or out of the church. It can happen through any human being, okay? That takes a toll on us. Well, also, you guys, I hope you know, if you're in Christ, you are divinely protected, all right? Even though you are divinely protected, you have to step in it, stay in it. And you have to activate. You have to war. You have to do things, okay? So I rested all weekend trying to not deal with all of the spiritual warfare and just wanting it to pass. And then last night, or yesterday, I could verbally hear all day in the spirit realm words like, you don't belong here. You should have never moved here. We don't want you here. get out of this town, get out of this land. You're not welcome. You're gonna spiritually die here. Nobody wants to be your friend here. Nobody is gonna receive you here. I mean, you guys, I might as well have been having a conversation with an actual person. It was constant. It wouldn't go away. And I started to be like, whoa, damn, like, did I make the wrong decision? Did I somehow orchestrate where I am in this land? Like, honestly, I brought myself before God and was like, I had to go back through every factor that went into me moving to the location where I am. And each of those factors, because I was walking them out with my aunt at the time, my kids and I were on homeless prevention duty before this, and it's a long story. Couldn't find anywhere to live, had to have a certain price range because obviously everything was a factor. And in the end, I ended up moving somewhere I did not expect to move at all. If I'm being really honest, I did not want to move to this place. But it became the place I had to move to. And that was that. And even down to the fact that I was a full-time student. I couldn't get anybody to approve my application on my own with 3 kids. And the landlord here approved my application, everything, all these different things, even to the point where it was like, I wanted him to change the carpet out if it was possible, as though I had like who did I think I was? But he did. It was like, boom, 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 boom. All right. So I had to go back through every part of the move to check before God, did I move to the right location? Because sometimes, you guys, we can step out of, we can make things happen, we can do things. And the enemy was playing with my head so hard that I was starting to swirl and just be like, oh, is that why I'm feeling this? Am I in the wrong spot? Like, I'm open to anything, God. I'm open to moving. I'm open to anything. But the thing is, I told my kids we wouldn't move again. All right, for a while, because they needed to settle too. So, all right. Why am I saying all of this? Because I need you to understand what spiritual warfare sounds like, what it looks like. So, first things first, when God speaks to us, it does not sound accusatory. It does not sound like, here, I want you to doubt yourself. I want you to, that is what the enemy sounds like, okay? It's also not what my own voice sounds like, okay? There's 3 sort of incoming broadcasts. You can be hearing God's voice, you can be hearing the enemy's voice, and you can be hearing your own voice, all right? And you need to know, if you know how you think, then you know what your voice sounds like. I say to you guys all the time, the real battle is won and lost in here anyways, all right? So if you're wondering, is the enemy at play or not, you still have to find truth in yourself. You still have to find the truth and stand on the truth in spiritual warfare. So I called my aunt last night. I was talking to her, and we started to, both of us, pray in our native tongue in the spirit. And as we were praying, and I love my aunt, she is old school. She can pray for hours, okay? But as she was praying in the spirit, I had to walk my dog. I thought, I'm going to walk my dog. I'm out walking my dog. And then I feel like I'm supposed to walk around this town. So I start walking around the town and just praying. Okay, praying God's blessing over this town. I felt led to bind all depression. I started to just pray because she was actually praying. So I just was praying in the spirit, but I knew I was interpreting some parts of what I was praying. And I knew I was binding negative, evil forces over people's lives. And I was breaking free of something. I just can't explain it in English, but I came back into my house and I had another action I felt like I was supposed to take. And then we're kind of stopping praying. We're coming to a close. And all of a sudden my aunt says, I don't know why, but is the spirit of Jezebel at play here? Okay. So number one, the first, I knew in my spirit, yes, that's it. I was like, it resounded, it landed. I was like, yes. Number two, what is the spirit of Jezebel, in case you're wondering? The spirit of Jezebel is a power-hungry, seductive, dominating spirit. It didn't originate in the character in Jezebel in the Bible. A lot of people go back to 1 Kings and they're like, Jezebel, we call it Jezebel in our modern world, but you have to trace that baby right back on further than that. That goes way back to the ancient demonic gods, the fallen gods, okay? So, but it's a high level of power. This spirit has first of all, this spirit isn't even going to be coming after you unless you have authority in the spirit realm. Okay, never mind what your title is on earth. If you have authority in the spirit, remember, the unseen realm can see and knows who you are more than you do, okay? More than I do. They know who you are. They see. So that spirit comes after positions of authority and power. So if you're experiencing it, then it's saying something about the land you're taking. You have authority and power over the land you're taking. You have an authority, a God-given birthright authority to take authority, to establish, to build in the land you're in. Okay? So I have not wanted to deal with that spirit for maybe 5 years, because 5 years ago, my ex-partner and I were in a church, and the leaders of this church were just massively under that. So it's a very territorial spirit too, and it tends to go with the spirit of Ahab, which produces massive levels of insecurity and paranoia in people. And those two dynamics together, rather than getting into the whole thing, you basically can't understand why someone is rejecting or pushing you away. So they're not just rejecting or pushing you away. They want something you have, but they want to own it. Does that make sense? They want something that you have. They want your authority. They want your power, but they want to own it and possess it. So they will use intimidation, threats, different tactics to try to get you to yield to them, to their methodologies. And the whole point is territory in the spirit, okay? That's what that is. I went through all that, okay? And also, just to say, if the spirit of Jezebel is after you, it is connected biblically to being a prophet. It's connected biblically to having that kind of priestly authority, power, whatever, in the spirit realm. All right, so what I want to tell you is my aunt's saying all this to me, and I'm like, hold on. Immediately in my head, I'm seeing Elijah. So in the story, First Kings 19, 18, 19, 20, around that area, Elijah has just been on the mountaintop. He has faced off the ancient god Baal, and he is with Baal's prophets, and saying, like, you know, they both have these altars, and they're building altars, and the Baal's prophets are cutting themselves and, you know, trying to invoke their God's power, right? And Elijah is like, my God is going to show up with fire, real fire, okay, against your God. He's not, let's see whose God shows up first. So he is standing in, he's putting all of the onus on God to show up, but he's put himself out there completely. Okay, if God doesn't show up, he is toast. And that level of courage, that level of confidence in God, it's incredible. In fact, it's the faith of God. God gave him that faith to stand in that power. But the story goes, if you know it, that he wins that battle. His God shows up with fire, okay? Jezebel hears this story, she has a position of authority and rulership over here with this guy Ahab. And anyways, she hears it and she just sends a letter to Elijah, and she tells him she's gonna like see that he's dead by the end of the day. How about this guy who has just been so brave, so confident, gets freaked out by her letter and starts to run. He starts to run. Her threats, her intimidation to take his life worked on him. And he runs off into the wilderness. And it says he sits under a broom tree, and God has to come, and he sends ravens to minister strength to him. That's funny. There's literally a bird that just flew on top of that roof, right as I said that. 2 birds. Can you guys, I wonder, let me show. Oh, anyways, okay, never mind. Doesn't matter. Huh, that's cool. So all of a sudden, he's completely defeated, and he is running for his life. And that's when everything came together for me last night, because as she was praying, I thought, that's exactly what kind of voice would say that kind of thing to me in this kind of place I'm in. All right. So I sort of woke up. I sort of came to my senses last night as she was praying. I realized I was walking around this town because in my own calling, I can feel the land. I can feel territorial spirits. I can discern things. I haven't been operating in this for a minute because I haven't wanted to. Does that make sense? But last night, God put me in a situation where it was like, oh, you're gonna, like it or not, Autumn, you're gonna, because this is what it's gonna feel like if you don't step up and step into this. Okay, you're gonna be tormented. So my mental health and my function is connected to wearing the mantle that I'm supposed to wear and being who I'm supposed to be. And if I'm being really honest with you guys, I don't want to. I don't want it. But I'll tell you what, I'm not telling you anything God doesn't know, but I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want to do more warfare. I'm battle worn from the last seasons of my life, and I want to be positive, and I want to be encouraging, and I just want to release and then God said to me, the lightheartedness, laughter, joy, freedom. And I'm like, no, that's what I want to be, right? That's what I want to be. That's how I want to war. So tell me then, why, if that's true, why am I having to sit in this cross-section point? It's like, I don't really understand. Okay, stop, hold on. So what I'm saying to you guys is, once again, it doesn't really matter what I want or don't want. I just have to walk in this, whatever this is. So Holy Spirit, I don't know how this is going to help anybody. I really don't know how even, like, in my head, I'm like, I'm not going to post this. I'm not going to post this. It's so funny. When I was watching Wonder Woman, the movie years ago, that scene where she is waking up and she wants to fight, and she's so young. Her mom doesn't want her to be trained for battle. She wants to hide her. her mom basically realizes if I don't train her, the enemy's going to come after her. And it's going to be worse. And so her mother says, okay, well then train her harder than anyone else you've ever trained. And she does. She gets trained for battle, and she is battle ready and prepared for what is coming. And that helped me through so many seasons where I was getting pummeled. But yeah, we're at that point again now where I have to remember that I am now the older woman, and I can encourage and uplift and tell you guys who you are, sons and daughters, divine child. I can tell you about ascensions. I can tell you, I can give you wisdom. If any chance I get, I can teach you things. But the bottom line is, if I don't also teach you how to fight and how to war, then I'm really no good to you. And I'm really not doing anybody a service, because the reality is there is a battle. There's a battle. All right. So I'm going to transition there because that's enough for me for right now. What I want to transition to do is tell you quickly about sorcery. And I'm going to do it from the heart. Okay, I'm not going to do it off notes. Here's the deal. The best I understand. Okay, I have to keep taking this ground. Do you understand? That's part of what's going on, is whatever I'm doing on this channel, it's not just in this town, okay? I have to be bilocational in my own call. I have to be present locally, and I'm open now to hearing God, how that is supposed to look. But I also this is God's heart. This channel is what he told me to birth. And I am dedicated first to this channel. I have to keep taking the land that God has told me to take, and that is this area I'm calling no man's land, Christian taboos. It's the experiences and the encounters that he has been giving in my life behind the scenes for 18 months or more. And so I have to continue with this series alongside with telling you guys, you know, what's personally been going on in my life. And you're going to have to take the stories that come out and just take them for whatever you need them for, whatever resonates, maybe different things with different people. But the reason that I'm doing this is because what is coming on earth, you guys, plan A is plan A. This is the stage where everything is playing out. Okay, this is where Christ came in, put his stake in the ground. This is where the body of Christ is growing. This is where it's happening. The unseen realm can see us. We can't see them always. Some people can, some more than others. But in reality, what we know is that it's not, this is my belief, we're not getting like taken out of here. Okay, there's no escaping. Christians who live that way do not take land. And they don't take land, and they don't tell the next generation to take land. So everybody gets depressed and has nothing to do except sit in a dusty, crusty church pew. I'm doing this series because what I do believe is coming is more spiritual activity. Because God says, in the last days, I will pour my spirit out on all flesh. Kol basar, that means all flesh. Also, we know from certain prophetic references that we are going to start to see manifestations from people who call themselves Christians, and they are going to, we're told that the signs and the miracles and the wonders are going to be coming from all kinds of shady places. Now, how are we supposed to be ready for that if we can't even discern, somebody standing on a stage like Sean Bolt's, prophesying crap, totally fake mind stuff, and everybody's showing up to get these words of knowledge, and it's sensationalist. How are we going to be ready for that when people like Catherine Crick, who are holding stadium conferences where even ex-witches who go to her conferences are coming out going, that was so demonic, okay? Christians are buying tickets, spending their money, completely duped by the spirits behind it, unable to test the spirits, unwilling to test the spirits because it has a label on it. It has a label. This is a Christian conference. No, it's not. It's actually a conference from the kingdom of darkness, okay, that you just spent your money on. My point is, discernment is needed at a higher level, and the whole mission of this particular little series that we're doing now is to increase your level of awareness and discernment. If you cannot discern that the Spirit of God can fall on a donkey, and that is the Spirit of God. The Spirit of God can fall on a tarot reader, and that is the Spirit of God. The spirit of some nasty demon can fall on a preacher, and that is the spirit of a demon. How are you going to know the difference if all you listen to are Christians? That's ridiculous. It's not even real. It doesn't work like that. It's not how it's going to work. And I want my kids learning to test the spirits. I teach my kids, test the spirits. How did it feel when that person told you something? God didn't leave us without any defenses. He told us that we could know it by its fruit. So what is the fruit? Did it produce love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, self-control? Did it produce the fruit of the kingdom of God in you? If somebody says something to you and it creates fear in you, it is not the voice of God. So what I'm doing now is I'm going back into the roots of secret knowledge to unpack for you guys that's where it has to start. You have to start by understanding that everybody can be divinized. Everybody, anybody. You cannot take people at their word in whatever they're presenting to you as, okay? I need to be really clear about this too, and I didn't say this in my last video. I'm not condoning or suggesting that people should go searching into the occult for God's spirit to speak to them. That's not what I'm saying. I didn't go searching into the occult. God brought somebody across my path and I had to discern. And I'm not wanting to tell you guys anything other than that. Anything other than that is too heavy. It's too much, okay? All you need to know is you need to educate yourself that God can do anything through anyone. And then you need to only be watching what comes across your path, what comes on your screen, who walks into your life, okay? The people that you need to be really good at discerning in your own environment. That's it, okay? All right, God's not going to put anybody into a test or into something that they're not also equipped to discern in, all right? Which tells you that all the people who are getting duped, they are not engaging with their own discernment because they have a title over something. Okay, my dog wants to come sit with me. Right, guys, we're going to get quickly into sorcery, and I'm going to just talk to you from the heart about what's up with that. Hang on, here we go. Right, sorcery. So the ancient word for sorcery, as it's used in Hebrew, is, how am I saying it? Kashef, okay? And when you think of sorcery, I don't know if like me, I always thought of it like Harry Potter, wizards, witchcraft, right? But we confuse that word. The word sorcery actually, as it's referred to in the ancient world, means it's the use of drugs to evoke, open, manipulate the spiritual realm. It was drugs and roots and concoctions that would open up the ability for people, particularly rulers, as the ancient world progressed, to go into deep states of trances, to receive secret knowledge, secret power. It was always used outside of the Hebrew culture, so it was never used in God, like it was never sanctioned by God as such, obviously. So what does that look like? In ancient Egypt, it was the pharaohs going into these tombs that they weren't tombs, I said tombs, into these rooms, and they would recite what we actually get our word for, like psalms. The songs and the psalms, they were incantations. And they would recite them over and over, and they would have people standing, like a designated high-level vizier or somebody in the room with them who would be reciting them with them or on their own. Sometimes there would be somebody, sometimes there'd be somebody they'd be on their own, but they would be reciting them and going into altered states of being, because they had represented to the people that they were gods, right? Everybody in the ancient world you had to embellish your story. Your birth story was embellished. You know, a lot of times people would say you had no father because they needed to allocate you as having a divine father, even if you had a real earthly father. It's just the way of the ancient world. So they would go into these states because they began believing they were gods. All right, so that this is how you invoked your own power. And these altered states of being would do all kinds of things, okay? If you're wondering how did the ancient empires get into such like horrific practices, it's because they would open up the spirit realm, they would allow total possession of themselves, and then they would rule from that place. This is not just an ancient practice. You guys, so many powerful rulers, even down to Hitler, okay, Alexander the Great, Nero did horrific incantations and used poisons, and the use of poisons as well is sorcery. So love spells, any kind of manipulative power where you're using a concoction or you're ingesting a concoction for yourself or towards someone else, that is sorcery. Okay, Hitler used opioids and other things as well. And I'll tell you what, and I've done a lot of drugs in my lifetime. Okay, I never did them for that reason explicitly. I just was more doing them to have an experience, if that makes sense. And so, you know, I'm not suggesting everybody uses drugs. Most people don't use drugs because they're trying to fill themselves with power, right? But nevertheless, the opening up of the spiritual realm is not about God not wanting us to see something, because then it would make us have a better life or like some great experience. That's not what it's about. Okay, every conversation comes back to the roots, like I told you guys, of domination or dominion. God created all of those things. He created the roots. How could they be bad? Well, they aren't bad inherently. But remember, when man came into the knowledge of good and evil, outside of paradox, we don't understand the application for those roots. We don't understand the application for medicine. Medicine can help and it can hurt. It can keep people addicted, right? It can save a life and it can keep, it's only meant to be dispersed through God's leading and discernment in our lives. So these pharaohs, these ancient people who would use sorcery, and this goes right back, you guys, to shamanism, cave rituals, the stuff that archaeologists find in caves that date 30,000 BC. Okay, the stories on the wall tell everything. These people would be induced into trances, and then they would see things, and they were scared the frickin' life out of them. They were scary. This is when the heads of animals and the human bodies depicted in all of pictographs, you see them, and it's such a conversation. Like I said, Genevieve von Petzinger's book, Symbols and Signs, get on and watch documentaries about it. All this, you could just see so much about it. It's really, if you see it through the light of some ancient entities released things that these people could use to go into trances that they weren't supposed to go into, and then you see what the story, it doesn't help anybody. It didn't help anybody's life. It just drives from 30,000 BC right through to 3,500 BC. It just drives our culture into destruction. This is where the flood, the Noah flood, would have happened, and the whole world has to be restarted from essentially what happened from these watchers releasing this knowledge. But anyways, and I say that because the ancient symbols in her book, they go from being like a language that is shared, 32 symbols shared across the earth globally, which is crazy if you think about it, except that this confirms that the Bible says we used to all speak the same language. And then the Tower of Babel, right, where God has to break the languages up. And that's why he does that, because humanity is again trying to dominate with knowledge. Whether they know it or not, they don't really know it. But taking those drugs and inducing that state of being where spiritual entities giving humanity the motive of dominating, possess something that's not yours, possess something you're not invited into, right? God invites us into trances. God invites us into prophetic words in the unseen realm and into all kinds of states of being, but we're invited into it. It's sanctioned. Whereas this is like, I'm going to make this happen myself. And when you do that, it's an act of domination. Okay? Whether you know it or not, whether I knew it or not. All right? And it's really unsafe. And I'll tell you what, people don't think of it as sorcery, but it is trying to manipulate knowledge. And I'll tell you, I told you guys in a couple videos ago that I was going to do this drug with a friend in the past, and I was really looking at it all afresh. Like, is this something that's gonna, I was like, God made the leaves for the healing of the nations, and I was looking at it from a different perspective. Like, is this something that Christians are not doing, and are we keeping away from it because of our taboos, or is this something we should go into? In the end, I decided not to, but not just decided, I was uninvited, because I had asked if it was okay to bring my authentic self into it. And the leader said no. Effectively, no, you cannot bring your God into it, which is the spirit of what? Control. Because they were trying to contain and control an outcome in the group. Now, I would have been bringing my God into it. Somebody else would have been bringing their God into it. Somebody else would have been bringing their God into it. They just didn't ask permission because they didn't have the true God with them. Does that make sense? I have the true fear of the Lord. I was like, I'm not doing anything that's not sanctioned. So I brought that information. That information in itself gave me my answer, because I won't be controlled. And I certainly won't put myself in a position through drugs or alcohol or anything to where I am going to be controlled by a spirit, right? That wants to control the outcome of my night, the outcome of my perspective, okay? And by the way, a lot of the ancient rulers used alcohol mixed with things, or just alcohol. So alcohol is in and of itself a gateway spiritually that can absolutely alter states of being, obviously, right? Okay, so I'm not saying all alcohol. I drink alcohol too. Don't get all weird on me. I'm just saying we have to be full disclosure. Are you staying in control, or are you losing control? Okay, are you doing things when you're on alcohol to dominate and control other people? Or are you staying yourself, and are you staying in the right frame of being? Does that make sense? And you guys, that's what sorcery is. Sorcery is incantations, manipulations, but it's using drugs, alcohol. It's using substances to either invoke or control, manipulate, access secret knowledge. And the bottom line is, you know, once God is a father and a protector, and just like we don't want our kids going into territory that is not safe for them, that is the same with sorcery, with drugs and alcohol. I was looking for YouTube videos when I was thinking about what's sanctioned and what's not sanctioned with drugs myself, and I couldn't find a lot from Christians or from people who, you know, were giving this perspective. So maybe somebody will find this when they need it, and that's what I would say. I would say don't do it because first of all, don't do it because you can have that experience with somebody without the drug. You can connect with somebody deeply. You can absolutely, we are so vibrational as human beings, just in our natural selves. You don't need all of that to heighten a love experience with someone or to heighten a connection with someone. In Christ, right, through the power of the Holy Spirit, there is no higher level of vibration. There's no higher experience than you could have than in the natural spirit. Does that make sense? So that's really all I have to say. Taking anything, it's forbidden because it's being used as a tool of domination, of trying to possess something, and it is dangerous. And God never says don't do something to people unless it is dangerous for them on some level. So that's it. That's all I got to say about that. I can't remember tomorrow what we're going to get into, but today's a long enough share for me. So I love you guys so much. Have a really good day, and I will see you tomorrow. Love you guys.